In every age, there are those called by God, summoned to speak light into darkness, mercy into wickedness. Jonah was such a man, a prophet, a voice chosen to carry divine truth to a desperate people. But this calling? It wasn't what Jonah wanted. God said, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it." But Jonah arose, to flee. He didn't run because he couldn't hear God, he ran because he knew exactly who God was. Merciful, compassionate, quick to forgive. And Jonah didn't want Nineveh to taste that mercy. So he turned his back on the voice of the Almighty, bought a ticket to Tarshish, and boarded a ship to nowhere. But no one outruns the presence of the Lord. The call of God isn't always convenient. It rarely aligns with our comfort, our plans, or our preferences. But it always carries weight, eternal weight. Go to Nineveh, God said. Nineveh, the heart of a violent empire, drenched in idolatry and known for cruelty. To Jonah, it wasn't a mission, it was madness. Yet the voice of God was clear. Not a whisper, a summons. Jonah didn't argue, he ran. He fled not just from Nineveh, but from the very face of the Lord. He would rather risk the edge of the world than carry grace to people he believed didn't deserve it. But the call of God isn't silenced by distance, it isn't broken by disobedience. It follows, it pursues, because God is not done when we are done. He speaks again, and again. Because calling isn't about us, it's about Him. Jonah found his ship. A vessel bound for Tarshish, the farthest place he could think to run. He paid the fare and went down into the hold, as if he could descend beyond the reach of God. But disobedience always costs more than we think. He slept, unaware that heaven was stirring the sea. The winds rose, the waves pounded, and seasoned sailors cried out in fear. Each man called on his God, they threw cargo overboard, desperate to survive. But Jonah? He slept on, not in peace, but in escape. They cast lots, and the lot fell on him. "Who are you?" they asked. "What have you done?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew. I fear the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." The men were terrified, and Jonah knew. The storm was not random, it was mercy in motion. "Throw me overboard," he said. "Only then will the sea be calm." And with trembling hands, they did. The sea grew calm, the storm abated, but Jonah sank. Down past the surface, down past the strength in his lungs, down into the silence of judgment, and yet, judgment did not consume him. For the Lord appointed a great fish. Not to punish, but to preserve. Jonah was swallowed, not by wrath, but by mercy. In the darkness of the deep, wrapped in the belly of the beast, Jonah found the one thing he could not escape, the presence of God. 3 days, 3 nights. It was a grave, but it was also a womb. Because when God shuts a man in, it is not to destroy him, it is to remake him. From the depths, Jonah prayed. Not a polished prayer, not a performance. A cry, a confession. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. He remembered the temple, he remembered the mercy seat. But more than anything, he remembered God. Seaweed wrapped around his head, waters closed in, the earth barred him in forever. But still, he looked up. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you. There, in the bowels of the sea, Jonah uttered the truest line of his life. Salvation belongs to the Lord. The heavens heard, and the fish obeyed. Jonah was cast out, not as trash, but as a man given back his mission. The word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Not a new word, the same one. Arise, go to Nineveh. This time, Jonah went. He entered the city and declared, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. No signs, no plagues, no theatrics. Just 8 words from a reluctant prophet, and the city shook. From the streets to the throne, the people believed God. They fasted, they wept, they turned from evil. Even the king rose from his seat, removed his robe, and sat in ashes. Who knows, he said, God may turn and relent, and God did. Judgment held back, destruction delayed, mercy poured out. A city changed, not by the passion of the prophet, but by the compassion of the Lord. But Jonah was angry. Not because Nineveh resisted the word, but because they didn't. Because God was gracious, because God was kind, because God forgave. Jonah sat outside the city, waiting to see its ruin, but ruin never came. So he prayed again, this time not in desperation, but in protest. I knew you would be merciful, that's why I fled. Just let me die. Even then, God answered with gentleness. He caused a plant to grow, giving Jonah shade and comfort. Jonah was glad for the plant. But at dawn, God sent a worm. The plant withered, the sun beat down, Jonah's joy turned to rage. Then the Lord asked, You pity the plant, but not the people? Should I not pity Nineveh, that great city, with more than 120,000 souls? And the story ends, not with Jonah's reply, but with God's question. Because sometimes, the final word isn't an answer, it's an invitation. Jonah ran, but God pursued. Through wind and waves, through silence and storm, through rebellion and regret, God was never far. Not in the ship, not in the sea, not even in the belly of the fish. Because the story of Jonah is not about a man swallowed by a whale. It's about a world swallowed by sin, and a God who refuses to give up. A God who sends prophets, who speaks twice, who shows mercy to the unworthy, and patience to the unwilling, who asks questions not to accuse, but to awaken. Jonah was angry because grace reached too far, but grace is always reaching farther. And the same mercy that spared Nineveh, still speaks today. Should I not pity them? Yes, Lord, you should, and you do.